Yeah, you.
All right, we're back up
You
live.
may not
We're
like
back.
all my feedback on the parking.
I may like your feedback on the parking.
That's part of the reason that you're here. I mean, we
Okay.
need to hear some things. So I think we're back on, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I mentioned that 50th in France has 500,000 square feet of commercial space, over 100 businesses in Edina, and that doesn't include the businesses or the square footage on the Minneapolis side of France Avenue. Our businesses range from corporate headquarters for Lunds and Byerly's to small mom and pop stores, boutiques, and restaurants. Parking, Ann had mentioned, parking is always a topic of conversation around here. Over the decades, the city has invested in 3 municipal parking garages, plus a municipal parking lot. And in recent years, we've talked about adding more because it seems like during some of the peak seasons for the businesses here, they don't have enough parking to serve their customers. In the last study we did, and then I'll drop this back and let you weigh in on it. So we have about 1,000 parking stalls. During our peak shift, during the holiday season, we have 975 employees. Not to mention customers, but that's just employees alone. Now that is the peak shift during probably November and December, so during the summer it's a little bit different. But we've been trying to find that balance, and so we thought by walking through, we'd love to hear some of your comments on things we've done well, things we could do better, maybe opportunities. You've got a lot of great experience. We really value what you might be able to share with us.
Thank you. Just a question to kind of start us off. How much per hour are people paying to park here?
Zero.
That is
Really?
Well, actually,
Zero?
that's not true.
So
The
that's-
employees do pay a parking
yeah.
permit
So
fee.
the fee for parking has been a subject of a lot of conversation.
Because it's really hard
I guess the
in a
consumer-
market-based economy to say that we have a lack of parking when the price is zero.
Right.
I mean, it's like we put hamburgers out and everybody eats hamburgers and like how much you pay for them? Nothing. Well, we have a shortage of hamburgers.
Right.
No, we really don't.
Right.
We don't actually have like a functioning market for hamburgers. That's what you've created for parking. And I mean, here's the thing. Because Edina has been a fairly affluent and wealthy suburb, you haven't had to have the fiscal discipline that other places have had. So I know other places have come here and looked at this and said, is this a model we can copy? And my answer is no, you can't, because you can't afford, if you're the city of Brainerd, where I'm from, there's all this talk about, well, we need a parking ramp like you guys have.
Right.
We can't afford the idle space, we can't afford the payments, and really, if the money's being spent to make the businesses more profitable, we're not going to get the tax-based growth out of those businesses to actually afford to pay for the parking. You have, in a sense, built something from a lifestyle choice that you like as a community. I would really question the economics behind it.
Yeah.
Some of the economics behind this actually is that they are maintained by our businesses.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our businesses pay into a central cost to maintain the sidewalks and the planters and everything, along with
Right.
the parking lot.
No doubt, and I'm sure. I think the capital cost of the parking lot is, and then, the fact that it becomes dead space, and we can
Yes.
talk about the design
Yeah.
things with it.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, my sister-in-law lived 3 blocks that way. She was on the Minneapolis side, just a couple blocks.
Mm-hmm.
We would come visit her, and we would come down here
Yeah.
to eat and stuff. We always drove.
Yeah.
Always drove.
Of course.
Right.
That's insane. That is absolutely insane. But it shows when you build the parking, they'll use it.
Yeah.
Yet, what is the market? To me, I think the interesting thing about this space here is what is the market of people within a mile of where we're standing right now? And what kind of things could we do to get those people here more easily outside of their vehicle? And what would be the return on that as opposed to building another parking ramp? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a great
And like with the employee thing too, what kind of return, if we're designing parking, because right now, like this ramp is, and for all practical purposes, empty. We're here on a Friday afternoon in September, so we're not in peak season, but yet this is a sunk cost that in a financial situation you don't want to have empty capacity. When we look at designing for peak, are there other ways to address that peak than building stuff that will go unused most of the rest of the year? Could you have people park at Southdale and pick them up on a bus and bring them here? Could you have a different transit route during those peak times that actually circulated more and took use of parking in other spaces? Those maybe aren't like the most convenient things, but if you were poorer, if you were more cash strapped, or if you actually recognized the carrying cost of this and said we can redeploy that capital someplace else, there's a lot of other things that I think would be on the table.
Okay, let's
that
get
make
moving.
sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go for a walk. So I thought we'd walk through part of the district. You've been here before, but just stopping in some areas where there's something to look at and there's a little bit of space.
Yeah.
And maybe we can enjoy today's sunshine a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and as we go, I'll continue to, one of the things just in general, parking. We're still live, right?
Yeah, still live.
You guys have the very successful mall, and you also have this very successful retail spot. One of the interesting things we do in kind of our modern development approach is we recognize that they're competing for the same group of people. To have the convenience of the mall parking, we kind of feel like we have to build a ramp here.
Right.
Because if we don't, those people will maybe go to our mall, which would be okay, or they might go to the Mall of America, or they might go someplace else. And so the sense is that these people here are we're competing with the mall.
Right.
Yep.
The most successful downtowns in the country that I have seen realize that they're not competing with the mall, that they're actually offering an alternative experience, and that their primary market are the people that live literally within a mile of where they're at. And
That is true.
if the competition with the mall is like the icing on the cake as opposed to the core revenue stream, it creates a much different business model, and one that you can do at a lot lower burn rate with a lot more adaptability over time. Yeah, because we're going to have a little talk. I'm not a big autonomous car person. I don't run around saying the driverless cars are going to change the world. But there are people that do, and I wouldn't say it's not a possibility. But what does this place look like if we wake up in 10 years from now and parking ramps are obsolete because cars just recirculate?
We talked about that.
We've put millions of dollars into a facility that now is not only has no use, but is a blight. So are there strategies we can adopt that give us a little bit more resiliency over time? Because the competing with the mall one is in many ways a 1980s kind of philosophy that really successful places have been moving away from for a while. How do we get more people living? That empty lot over there, for me, if you're seriously talking about something that's 4 or 5 stories, 3 or 4 of those stories need to be housing.
Agreed.
Because
totally agree with you.
The more people here, the more stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And we've heard the same from our retailers.
Yeah.
They would
Yeah.
love to have more rooftops in this area.
Exactly.
Because that's their bread and butter.
it's the
Yeah.
bread and butter. And the people that are here are not necessarily going to be, shopping at Talbot's every day.
Right.
So maybe they're not but you would organically grow a different mix of businesses here too over time that could accent some of the ones that you've got
You
right
know,
now.
we have a good example of that because we used to have very egregious liquor laws, and so really the only places
Really?
that
In
serve
Minnesota?
the only people
Particularly Dinah.
in our
we
city.
were a dry town.
We
in
were a
fact.
dry
Were you really?
town, so we
Okay,
had
wow.
2 country clubs and a Legion until I can't remember the date.
80s?
The 80s. We allowed our
Do you have Sunday liquor now?
no.
No, see, we don't in
have
up in
that.
Brainerd either, yeah.
So anyway, all of a sudden we now have restaurants.
Yeah.
They don't stay open late. They're not super bar restaurants
yeah.
because we have some rules, the percentage of bar to restaurant seating area. But all of a sudden that kind of changed the vibrancy down here.
Right.
We went from having a Brothers kind of delicatessen to Barrio and Salute and Edina Grill and all these other ones we're going to walk, and that, I think that created a much different downtown. So yes, change can happen, and it can be really positive.
What I've been saying to people today, and I think it's very important for people of Edina, people of this area to realize, for a long time, the competition, if we had competition, was Bloomington, Eden Prairie, Chaska, Shaka. Yeah, the competition for Edina today is Minneapolis.
Uptown.
It's
North.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
Northeast.
The macro region
Yes.
is really inverting and shifting in a way that we haven't seen for a long time. And we have a decade now of essentially movement from the exurbs and suburbs into the inner core of capital, of wealth, and of people. And this place here, as one of the most successful suburbs in the country, I think is now challenged with reorient itself to not necessarily look at how do we be a better Bloomington or how do we stay ahead of Eden Prairie, but actually like how do we be relevant in a world where a lot of people really want to be in Uptown.
Yes.
Good points. We should keep
All
on.
right, let's keep going. And by the way, the scale of these buildings is very nice.
So these all date to 1940. So
Yeah.
they're not new. They have some surprises when we do construction.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
But to one of the points we made earlier this morning, if one of the retailers closes their doors, it's pretty simple to get another retailer in there.
Sure.
In very short order.
Right. I'll bet though that it's tougher to. These are lower rent and more difficult places than this way.
This is the backside.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
so we'll walk around the front in a minute.
you've got the
And
big.
we'd like to not have a backside. We'd like this to almost be an inner courtyard,
Okay.
but that's limited.
Right.
You've got the big gap of the parking garages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This parking lot is a dead zone. This is great, but you've bounded me on this side with
Yeah.
not great stuff. And even amongst that, you've tried to spruce it up, but you still have like the big ugly
Yeah.
electrical boxes.
Yeah,
It is a sanitized, prettier, like gussied up version of a suburban parking lot. But to me, if the debate here was between having a city lot with 25 spaces or having $5 million of building that would make this into a nice courtyard, there's no question where you'd be better off with. No question.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
Or some great space.
well, I think you could accompany that in the center of this.
Yeah.
Right.
The parking ramp creates a challenge because you kind of got to skin that wall because you don't want to bound a nice park with that. You've also got the problem of you've got a drive-through bank.
That's going to change, I think.
Hopefully.
I think we'll see changes here.
Yeah.
But
in the
I think
next
the way,
5 years.
I think the way that changes is when the values of those properties become too
Yes.
great to support a bank.
Yes.
And that would happen. That won't happen as long as this is a parking lot. That will happen when this becomes something more. So look, we can handle garbage trucks just fine. They don't have to drive 70 miles an hour. They can drive at a decent neighborhood speed. Nobody's offended. It's perfectly fine. But you can see we're on like the butt of this block, right?
Yeah.
This is like the afterthought.
Yep.
We kind of have to walk single file here,
We do.
and you can feel how, you lose the
Vibrancy.
zing. Yeah. The character of this place is not reflected in this little stretch right here. But it doesn't have to be that way. You actually, that whole side of the street is a great redevelopment opportunity. But you gotta fix that parking lot. You gotta fix this street, and U.S. Bank can be a great partner. But there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to have this. I know that one of the things that I hear about this area a lot is that the property values have gotten really high, gotten ridiculously high.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand that that is not a problem with this place. What that is a problem with is that there's a lack of this kind of place in this region. And the solution is not to somehow try to tamp down this place or, wring our hands over the value. The solution is to build more places like this. Actually have this development pattern, which is awesome, extend this way more incrementally and continue to build a great place. When you build a great place, there's so much market demand for this kind of thing that we're just not supplying enough of it.
So enlarged neighborhood node.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and corresponding neighborhood.
Yes.
Because part of the advantage of living 4 blocks away from here is that I live 4 blocks away from 50th in France, right? I can walk over there.
In the last couple of years, we've been more attuned to that, so now there's empty sidewalks to get from the neighborhood that's a block away to this district.
Yeah.
Whereas, heck, even up until 2014, there wasn't a sidewalk to get here.
Well, right, even that mid-block crosswalk too, isn't that a part of that?
Yeah, we've worked really hard on this street with lighting, crosswalk, trees, keeping the sidewalk a friendly feel. That building right there was just refaced
Yeah.
to look in more tradition with what else is here.
Let's point out something here though, right now. See how the cars are all backed up?
Yep.
During your peak times, it's horrible.
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 On France too.
Here's the thing. Look at this intersection. There's no traffic. There's very little cross traffic. It is. We are creating congestion with the traffic signal. That traffic signal is what backs up the traffic, not the volume. You don't have a huge volume of traffic. What you do is you have a traffic signal that forces people to drive 0 miles an hour and sit there, and then everything backs up. And it becomes congested even though it really isn't. We've artificially made it so. How do you fix that? This is actually a space for a good urban traffic circle, a good urban roundabout. And by that, what I'm trying to draw a distinction with is not the ones that we're so fond of building now today in Minnesota, these big suburban monstrosities where they come in and have to take out all the buildings around it to build this huge thing. I'm talking about a good, tight little urban roundabout that you would drive through at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Would you rather be driving 0 or would you rather be driving 10? You'd rather be driving 10. And if we do that, what you'll find is that the flow of the traffic through here is at very nice neighborhood speeds, but it never becomes congested because it can flow through and then get out, and then you can go on your regular speed. So we could actually slow cars down throughout here, make this an even better place to be in, and have less congestion at the same time by getting rid of those signals and putting in some type of continuous flow intersection. Hey, if you actually wanted to get really crazy, there's some shared space models from around the world, but they're doing some of these in Chicago, and the Lone Rift type of thing. I think it would work great in this place. That might be too far of a leap, like culturally, for us to bite off, but maybe not. Maybe not.
Part of the challenge is that this block is controlled by the city, but the rest of it is controlled by the county.
Oh, that damn county!
And they are not excited about having shared space with pedestrians.
Yeah, but we can make them more excited. You know, the funny thing is that the county's spending $1 billion to put in. You know, we're putting in these transit lines. We're doing all this. We're starting to get that like pedestrian places matter. So let's let's walk the walk. These are pennies and nickels compared to the dollars we're spending other places. So this is really nice. The one thing that interests me is always when we place benches.
Yeah.
Because you can see like some of these, like my gut tells me like that's kind of a nice bench area over there.
Yeah.
Right? People sit there. But my gut also tells me that probably not a lot of people sit at that one over there. Right?
No.
One of the things that I think is really interesting in a place like this, because this is a comfortable place that people want to be. I've seen places where they've gone out with just chairs. Go to the hardware store, get some $5 chairs, set them out, and just let people kind of walk around with them. They might steal a few, you might lose some, but what you're doing is trying to gain knowledge. Where do people sit? What feels natural to them? What are they, how are they using this space? And if you observe what they do, you can then move your bench to a place people want to sit. You know what I'm saying?
Cool idea.
Yeah, because right now, you've spent some money and like it looks great. It all looks very clean, but I just know, like in my gut, that a lot of these things are not being used. My guess is that a lot of people sit here.
They do.
This feels very comfortable, and I actually think if you had like a couple little tables with a chessboard and stuff in here, like people would sit here all day. This is a really cool place, right?
We've been
We've
going
We've
down
had
that
this
trail.
discussion for a while.
Yeah,
Yes.
we've been talking about
Yeah,
that.
and this is a really cool place to hang out.
And part of what makes it the way that it is that years ago, I think in the 80s or 90s, we took out a lane of parking, and we narrowed the street, because the street used to be, we'd be standing in
Yep.
the street right
Oh,
now.
I didn't know that.
So we created all these green spaces for people, and I think there was some controversy about taking away some parking, some
There
on-street
was.
parking. But if you look at the reaction we get from people about being more comfortable with where they walk, having a tree, having a bench to sit on, it's going in the right direction. But I think you're right. There's more work to do.
I can also tell you, just subtly, we feel very comfortable here because this street is bound on both sides, and it feels more like a space to be in. It feels more like an outdoor room. This stuff kind of adds to that outdoor room feel, but it feels very much like an outdoor room because you've got a building on both sides, and it didn't feel that way down there, even though this side is actually kind of nicer down there almost even than this. This is really nice, but that's almost better. But the other side's a parking lot.
Right.
And what that parking lot does is it kills it. I realize that like people, well, that's the other side of the street. Yes, but the other side of the street matters. And there's less vibrancy, there's less activity down there because it's less comfortable to be in because the other side of the street is just a big parking lot.
As we walk along here, there's some second floor businesses and offices. The first really big housing project we ended up with is this corner.
Yeah.
And
What? You want to? Okay.
And was that a 70s vintage thing?
No, it was just built. No.
That was?
Oh, the sign. The sign's
No,
been
no,
here
no,
forever,
the
but
thing on the corner.
No, it was built about 10 years ago.
Really? Okay.
And it was.
yeah, 2004.
Okay.
It's a guy that took probably 25 years to accumulate enough pieces
Yeah.
of property to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then he rebuilt his businesses down below. Other than the red barn that used to be there.
Okay. Stop here for a second. This is a very neat, like cozy space, right? Like I see the draw of this. This is really nice. The windows on the side, these windows. This feels very comfortable. This lighting is fantastic. I know this is like the chic, cool lighting now, but it really, really works. Here's the interesting thing about this, though, and I'm telling you that this is great. What doesn't work here?
Trash cans
should
at
be
the end.
on.
Well, this street like frames. It's like a picture frame of like ugliness. And here's the thing: turn around. It's a picture frame of, I mean, it's not like that's blah, but that's not like popping in any way. So to me, like, something that we can think about doing that maybe wouldn't cost that much. I mean, that's even like a banner down there or something to make that, because you put the shrubs up as like a Band-Aid. Like, don't look at the building because the building's ugly. Look at the shrubs instead. The garbage cans. But these are the views that actually define a place. And this one is not rising to the level that you all have set for yourselves here.
Would art do the same thing?
Art
Because I'm
would do-
thinking about
yeah.
Spalding down by Slough and Edina Grove. It's the same kind
Yeah.
of tunnel way there.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Oh.
But understand that, the walls here create like a picture frame.
Yeah.
And what all picture frame does is accentuate the art.
Right.
And you're accentuating a ugly, reinforced concrete wall. So you've done a great job of framing.
But the picture needs to look better.
Yeah, now get a different picture, right?
Right.
Get a Picasso instead of, my daughter's kindergarten picture, right? Which this doesn't even rise to that,
So this is an area that we always have a lot of questions about. This is a public space,
Yeah.
but it's been a challenge to get people to use it more often.
Yeah, no, this is not. What? Tell me why.
We had a sidewalk cafe out here a couple years ago,
Uh-huh.
and it worked for some, but not worked for some neighbors, and for other neighbors it didn't work. And so they ended up moving it out to the street. And so far we think that there's enough room to do something, but not so much room to do something that's truly memorable.
Well, this doesn't help, because the vegetation here is meant to fix the ugliness of this building. And the ugliness of the building is like overwhelming, and it actually like hurts this, right? It hurts this. If you think of Target Field, when you're walking into Target Field past the Target Center, and they have the parking ramp there, they realized at the end of the construction, like towards the end, that this is going to be hideously ugly, this big parking ramp. And so if you look at that, what they do, they covered it with like this sheen kind of weird,
shimmery.
And you know what? As like a, I'm sure it costs plenty of money, but compared to like ripping, because ideally what you would do is you would go into this thing 20 feet, 30 feet, and you'd have storefronts along here, and then this place would explode. It would explode. In short of doing that, at Target Field, what did they do? They covered it up with something so that the kind of despoticness of that, I mean, it's like to me it's like Darth Vader, you know, it's not, it's nasty. They cover that up with this sheen, and it doesn't make it like awesome, but it makes it so it's not horrible. Okay, you could, and I'm thinking off the top of my head here, but to me this would be the kind of place where start at the steps, get rid of all this stuff, and that would make people sad because they like plants. Go plant them somewhere else, transplant them. You don't have to kill them all, just move them. But you're trying to recreate like a park here, and we're not in a park, we're in an urban area. This is not like a park. I would bring in like 3 food trucks in here, or you know, something along that scale that had activity that would, you know, and then do something to cover that up, and basically make this like not an artificial activity place, not like, well, we're going to plan an event here and try to artificially get people here, but actually have the neighbor to this place across the street be something that offered people something. You shrugged your face at the food truck thing.
We've discussed a lot of our restaurateurs are not eager to have food trucks parked right outside their front door.
But they might be eager to have twice the number of people in this space at any one time, because the food truck line will get long and then they'll go over there. Then that's the like dichotomy of the food truck. Or invite the dude that runs the restaurant over there to come and put a food truck here.
Now you're talking.
Right? Like I'm not suggesting. The thing about food trucks is that when you're trying to activate a space, what you're trying to do is you're saying, we have this number of people in this area now. If we get this food truck, or if we can activate this space, we can get this many people. So the way we activate the space today is a food truck. The way we activate it 5 years from now is actually a building of some type. But you got to get enough stuff going so you can make that.
Speaking of going,
keep going.
Or we have another alternative right here of creating a better public space.
But this, you can't out, because look at this. Let's come here with the camera. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna go really nice space. Oh my gosh, electric box, hideous wall, ugly like tower-ish thing, really gross wall with a garden trying to pretend it's not there. Nice space again. So you can do all the things you want to like activate this and try to make like, let's put out seating and benches and make this really nice. Those are great thoughts, but as long as you're competing with it's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be really hard to do. So I kind of feel bad for this place, because this place, I mean, look at the love they've shown. This is really beautiful. You know, they've got a nice menu, a nice open sign. The sign's great. The little textured details, the file is great. This is awesome. We're disrespecting it with this. You know?
Well, let's head through here.
Oh yeah. So this is your. You
The alleyway.
Yeah. No, this is what you do to alleys. This is awesome.
And these doors, front and both sides.
How do these people do in here? Do well?
Here, it's changed a couple times. These do fine because they are.
They have front doors and back doors.
Yeah. I mean, really, that even makes that problem down there
Right.
feel even worse to me now, because this is fantastic. This is one of those, kind of signature little things. This is character and flavor right here, right?
And the owners of these spaces put in what's necessary. They're really, it's a product of love for them.
You can tell, yeah, and also probably good business. This is really great. So we got to fix that little area back there.
Yep, we do.
Because that would make that whole thing just raw. It really would.
So the theater is a great niche theater.
Yeah.
Doesn't show blockbusters.
Yeah.
Shows
I've watched
Art
movies
films.
here.
a lot of great films.
Yeah, actually, that's really great. So
Those are high-end panels.
yeah,
So Minneapolis side, Edina side.
right,
We are the solution for some of the parking for the Minneapolis side.
sure.
And the zoning here allows for 4 stories in height
Yeah.
if there's proper architecture and setback and field.
Okay.
Which is what you saw above this is the
Yeah.
balconies and some change in brick and
Yeah.
undulation.
Is that required? The undulation? Because I think that was the thing I was kind of struggling with. Was it a lot of this down here feels like it belongs. Like it's pretty organic, and I don't know that it felt a little misplaced to me. Maybe it wouldn't as things continue to expand a little bit, but
We don't have a prescriptive code that
No.
defines window area or anything of that sort.
Yeah.
And we leave it up to the architects to
Right.
come up with the right feel for the space.
yeah,
But I think when this was built, and this was before my time here,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of concern that it had the right feel.
right.
But I think what used to be here was this the Arby's?
Dead barn, red barn,
Red barn?
dead barn in my family.
Okay.
It was the last piece he picked up was the red barn.
Right.
We can stop down by Spalding in the sun.
Yeah.
And I think Rachel will catch up with it.
Okay.
So when he rebuilt all this, he rebuilt for this specific restaurant because they were around the corner. And he did it so they had an outdoor area.
Yeah. This is very nice. Tracy,
It's great.
How is the interaction with Minneapolis across the street?
We've talked to them about trying to develop some sort of shared parking plan
Yeah.
and costs, and they haven't been particularly interested.
Because it seems to me, I mean, this just like, you look at these buildings here, and you can see they're starting to make good use of the roof space.
Yep.
Second stories. You've got billboards, which billboards are high revenue, low value uses. So once I get a billboard, I'm making money.
You're never going to
But
let it go.
right,
Yeah.
but you're not, because this doesn't provide a lot of tax base.
Right.
No.
That being said, there are things that go away when the value of the land gets
Right.
to where it is, and it feels like it feels to me like that side of the street should be ready for the next step of intensification. 2-3 story buildings on the other side of the street, and I was wondering why it's stuck.
Because they are separately owned and no one has been able to amass a large enough number of them.
You know
At
what,
least
though?
I was told when I asked that question, because I asked
I
it.
think that's
That is the answer I got.
That's the interesting thing, because that tells me that the code is wrong. Because if you have to have, 4 lots, because you have to build something huge to make it all work, then we're doing something wrong. Because really, these are great size to have.
They're great storefronts.
Yeah, they're great storefronts. You really don't want the first floor to change all that much. You
No.
just want second, third stories.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be a shame if like this were wiped out for one big building, even if they articulated it well in the front, because the thing that makes this side of the street work, I think a little bit better than your side of the street, this stretch, is the mix and the character of it. It's got a great, it's very organic feeling. This side, especially on this street here, feels very orderly, very thought out, very Edina. You know, like we're not going to do anything halfway. We're going to do very nice. It's going to be top shelf, but it also loses a little bit of that messy flexibility.
So if we had taken you down the front side of the next block,
oh, I know.
it's a little bit more similar to this,
Right.
though
Yes.
they are two-story.
Right.
And I think I would tell you that I know what the tax base is here because it's our highest per square foot tax base in our city.
This one?
In Edina.
Most of this district.
I can't speak to what they get across the street, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the tax valuation of 50th and France parcels on a per acre basis that you were using this morning.
Right. Oh, it's huge.
Significantly higher than Galleria.
Right.
Higher than our Class A office space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
your
there's
map,
no
they're
doubt.
purple.
No doubt. Right.
Right.
And I think though, and I don't know this for a fact, but I would postulate based on what I've seen in other places. This is one kind of big building down in the corner.
It is.
And it's split up into multiple units and stuff, and financially this is killing it. It's very successful. I would guess that if you took from this point over on that block and over the next decade had those become 3-4 story buildings, not one big thing, but just individual 3 or 4 story buildings, it would be double or triple this, tax base wise.
Well,
And
Minneapolis can enjoy
that's-
that, unfortunately.
No,
we
but
can't.
I think that's a lesson for us,
Yes.
because oftentimes we gear our ordinances and our codes and our approaches and our financing and everything to get the one big project that makes
Sure.
it. When actually, if we could figure out a way, and it's a cultural thing as much as it is a code and what have you, to work in smaller increments, the end result would be a lot more productive financially, and I think people would like it as much, if not better.
So you're leaning on Spalding right now,
I
which is
am.
okay.
I'm grabbing this.
He's my favorite thing up here.
Yeah.
We did fundraising as a community to keep him because we do public art, but the public art only stays around for a year.
Okay.
But if you had watched all the kids and
Oh,
everyone
yeah.
who touch him, and
Yeah.
so he's permanent.
Nice.
We have about 4 other spots up here that have public art in them.
Nice.
I think that's kind of cool.
I think it is too.
We do have some development possibilities. We have another bank, BMO, on the corner. So there's some things that are going to change eventually.
Yeah, but this stuff, I mean, this wasn't, 10 years ago I wasn't doing this, right?
No, this is
Yeah.
a newer thing and people love
This
it.
is great. Oh yeah.
All the outdoor seating, cafe.
I mean, it's a nice day out, but I mean, we're still 62 degrees in September here in Minnesota, and we're at, 2 in the afternoon, and this place packed.
Right.
That's great. Look at that.
I drove by last night at 9 p.m. and there were people out at almost every restaurant.
Yeah.
Not filled, but they were still eating outside.
So-
we love to extend the season.
When I see stuff like this, what this tells me is that people living 6 blocks from here would pay a premium to live 6 blocks from here. And so
And they do.
But if
Yeah,
we go
good
back
point.
to that parking discussion,
Yes.
Why are they driving here?
why are they driving
Right.
here? Right. That's the thing, is that you actually, I think, can grow your market, and you can help your business to be more successful, and you can do it without having to invest ridiculous amounts in free giveaway parking.
That's a real good point. So let's walk back to the van. We'll get you to the next stop.
Okay.
Okay.
And so we can go down this way.
Yeah.
where we're going?
One last little
Yeah.
thing about parking as we walk here. They had the controversy in St. Paul last year about
Charging for parking.
Yep, about charging for parking, and
The Grand Avenue.
right, Grand Avenue, and I get that. I mean, I would have been ticked off too, because basically it came across, and I'm not trying to insult St. Paul officials, but it certainly came across like this was a way to solve a budget gap,
Yeah.
right? Like we have this budget gap, we'll go get this thing and we'll charge for parking. places like this, like you're not charging for parking on the street here.
Nope.
One of the ways to create a real balance in your parking demand is to actually start charging. But if you go to these businesses and say, we're gonna start charging for parking,
Oh, they're going to flip.
and rightly so. The way successful cities do this is they go to the businesses and they say, we're gonna start charging for parking here because we're gonna take all of that money, every single penny of that money, and we're gonna put it back into making this little area where we're charging for parking way more successful. And here's the types of things we'll do. So what it does is it helps them like equilibrate that supply and demand, and you're not using the money to close a budget gap somewhere. You're actually using it right there to make the place better. So let's fix up that little alley we were in. Let's make those things nicer, and here's the money we'll do that, and that will benefit everyone. And you've got enough demand here to make it happen.
Cool. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
sorry.
the comments.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Fist bump.
Love it.
Yeah, fist bump, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.